A tweet from earlier this week leads us to believe that Teoscar Hernandez is not coming back. We're also going to break down some trade packages from you guys, the fans. And also, do I suck? This is episode 29 of the Hit It Here podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Joe. Joe, how's it going?
I'm good, man. I don't suck like you do, so I'm doing pretty good. Overall,
Congratulations.
overall pretty good. Postseason baseball has been relatively exciting from a, general standpoint. Diamondbacks, go Diamondbacks. Big D-backs fans. So,
D-back dojo, baby.
yeah, it's been fun even though I wish we were still in it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so kind of going off of that, obviously the offseason is quickly approaching with the playoffs coming to an end here in the next few weeks or so. What did you see on Twitter and what did the rest of Mariners Twitter see that leads you to believe that Teoscar Hernandez is gone?
So, a lot of just many players, their likes are public to the world, and I don't know if people are maybe realizing that. We saw an issue with it with like the Mariners admin liking a tweet about, should have done more at the trade deadline, the offseason, whatever. So there's been a couple moments where Twitter likes have been in the public eye. And there's a tweet talking about Teo's home versus road splits in 2023. And someone responded to it saying in Spanish, but English translation is a new house is required. And Teo liked that tweet. So whether or not the Mariners even had interest in bringing Teo back, because we know there's questions about the Mariners wanting to improve their contact percentage and lowering their strikeout percentage. Control the zone has been a shtick for the Mariners for however long I can remember, and yet they've brought in guys recently that haven't really fit the bill. So my assumptions around Teo's roster spot in 2024 for the Mariners was pretty skeptical. But this all but confirms it for me that whether or not we extend him a qualifying offer, I don't think he'd accept it, and he's going to test the open market anyways. And it's probably smart for him because how limited the bats are this offseason, he will get a decent chunk of change. I don't really have a spot where I think he's going to go to. I know you've talked about him maybe going back to the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I honestly think that he will. He was just always such a good and productive player there. Looking at the splits that were posted, at T-Mobile Park, Teoscar Hernandez hit 217, 263, 380 with an 81 WRC plus. And away from T-Mobile Park, he hit 295, 344, 486 with a 126 WRC plus away from T-Mobile Park. Obviously, the numbers say that Teoscar Hernandez is a much better hitter not in T-Mobile Park, which for a right-handed hitter is not surprising, right? We know that it's hard for righties to hit T-Mobile Park, and we've seen that throughout the years. But for Teo, especially with him liking this tweet, like you said, he's gone in my opinion. Like I don't know when they extend qualifying offers when that goes through, but he's gone. He's not going to be here anymore, and I'm fine with that. I like Oscar Hernandez the person. I like him as a player for the most part, and I do just think he had a rough year. But looking at these numbers, it really does seem like the ballpark could have been part of the problem.
Mhm.
And someone saying a new house is required. Obviously, a new house would not be the Blue Jays, but I still think that he goes back there. He's comfortable hitting there. They liked him. He liked it there as well. I don't see why he wouldn't return. I'm sure they're willing to reach out to him. It just depends on what kind of contract he's going to command, in my opinion. Whether that be like a 5-year, like $100 million contract, I don't know. He's obviously the wrong side of 30 now, so his contract is going to be very interesting. But with Shohei Ohtani being the top end of the free agent market and then Teo being like probably the next best hitter, I think Teo's going to command a lot more than what the qualifying offer is going to be giving him.
Yeah, and looking at the Blue Jays in the postseason, they needed one more big bat, it looked like. Yes, they got a lot better defensively. They got more utilization out of the outfielders that they acquired in the trades that they made last offseason. But just in the postseason alone, they were missing one more hit, that one clutch bat. And whether or not that could have been Teo for them, it's never a guarantee that, he would be able to continue to replicate that success. But would not be surprised if the Blue Jays try and bring him back to to some extent. He is still, it shows on the road, 126 WRC plus. It's pretty damn good. So whether or not, they're willing to reach an agreement with him or however the contract may be looking, it's looking like, yeah, Teo's not. And that's okay. We got 1 year. I think he gave us what we needed or what we were wanting, which was stability in right field to a certain extent. Obviously, there's some mishaps defensively, some lapses on the base paths, but overall, I'm not overly dissatisfied with the 1 year stint with the Mariners with that Teo had.
And that does leave an open spot on the roster for the Mariners. Obviously, the outfield's a spot of concern for the Mariners. And if Teoscar Hernandez leaves, you have Julio in center field, you have Kelenic either in right or left. That leaves the other corner position open. And you guys had some ideas. Joe, do you want to go through this little thread here and talk about some of the ideas to fill those spots?
On our little community tab post that we made about, topics throughout the offseason, Commander Ludwig posted a comment saying, let Teo walk and get Jung-Hoo Lee, which is another, opportunity for the Mariners to go out and get a corner bat in the outfield. But that's not what we're talking about in this specific situation. Right now, we're talking about guys that would fill it within a trade market, that corner outfield spot. And there were some replies to this comment. The first one being a trade package to the Cardinals, in which the Mariners would receive Jordan Walker, Brendan Donovan, and Nolan Gorman. Now, imagine, if you will, for a second, what that package would look like, and tell me if it's close to what User Ed had to say here. Gilbert, Michael Arroyo, Dylan Moore, and Zach DeLoach. So my question to you is, Colton, how fast are the Cardinals hanging up the phone?
As soon as they hear the name Dylan Moore, they hang up. They're out.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, as soon as they hear you ask for Brendan Donovan after you already say Jordan Walker, they hang up the phone.
Sure.
As soon as they hear you ask for all three, they delete your number.
Yeah. I think
yeah.
going to the Cardinals and asking for any one of those three, obviously Brendan Donovan's a bit of an interesting situation because he is getting Tommy John. I know it's second base, so it doesn't have to throw super far, but still it could impact a little bit there. And Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman are guys that are pretty solid bats, and whether or not you can find a spot for them in the field is the question. Gorman, second or third base, but he was rotating DH a lot last year with the Cardinals. Walker, corner outfielder. It's hard to say. Those are three names that I could very well see being targets, I guess. I was going to say just potent bats in the Mariners offense, but yeah, being targets for the Mariners. But all three in one trade package is absolutely ridiculous.
And I think User Ed, we really appreciate your comment. I do think you missed a little bit on what it would cost for these guys. I think Gilbert and Arroyo is a good start to get one of them. Gilbert and Arroyo plus, I don't know, somebody like a Jonathan Clase. And then you can start the package from them with Jordan Walker, for example, and then add to it. I don't think it would be you're trading a couple guys for one guy, especially if you're trading Gilbert. You're going to want a lot back in that trade package.
Yeah.
So maybe if you could bring two of those guys back for Logan Gilbert, I'm not sure. There's a lot of moving parts there. Also, the Cardinals think that they'll be contenders next year, so they're probably not willing to give up two of their starting infielders like Walker possibly could be, and Nolan Gorman, or Walker in the outfield.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the idea of trading with the Cardinals makes a whole lot of sense still to this day. I think that what would make more sense at this point is maybe sending Emerson Hancock over there and just bringing back Tommy Edman or something as just a backup, as a bench guy. He shouldn't be starting. He shouldn't be your starting second baseman every day. Yeah. But I think that him and Josh Rojas could both be over there at second base. So there are pieces there for sure. And the Cardinals are looking for starting pitching depth, which the Mariners clearly have. It's just, what are the Cardinals willing to give up?
Yeah. We'll get more to the starting pitching depth really quickly, but I have a question for you. Is if we're acquiring Tommy Edman, what does that leave you with Ryan Bliss? And I'm not saying that we need to necessarily give Ryan Bliss opening day at bats, but that is a name that has been very hot in the Mariners world because he's doing very well in the Arizona Fall League. He tore it up at the end of AAA with Tacoma. Where are you at with Bliss? And if you're willing to acquire Tommy Edman, is that I guess, a look inside to where you specifically are with him?
I think that Ryan Bliss, Tommy Edman, and Josh Rojas can all coexist on this roster. But I think that Ryan Bliss needs more time. I think that he needs to earn his place on this roster in, say, spring training or something. I don't think that he should just be given at bats for the sake of it. He needs to continue to tear it up. He needs to force the Mariners' hand in spring training and maybe even at the beginning of next year and make it impossible to not bring him up and start him at second base. Otherwise, again, Josh Rojas should not be your starting baseman. And Tommy Edman shouldn't really be your starting second baseman either. These guys all would need to rotate. Ryan Bliss, I think, has a future as possibly being a starting second baseman for the Seattle Mariners, but there's still so much left to be seen with him. He's only been in the organization for half a year.
Yeah.
So I don't think he would start opening day on the 40 or on the 26-man roster, but it is possible that eventually he pushes somebody out.
Yeah, I think I think that's fair because we don't want to set ourselves up for failure with a guy that's technically unproven at the major league level with Ryan Bliss, like giving him a guaranteed roster spot. It is, you want to see it proven in spring training. And if he comes out and does what Jared Kelenic did last spring training, sure, then that roster spot seems a little bit more viable. But I don't necessarily disagree with your statement. I don't know how I would feel about Edman, Rojas, and Bliss all being on the same roster because I assume you're probably still carrying Dylan Moore.
Yeah, I
And
think at
that
that point
leaves
you wouldn't
Tom.
be.
Yeah, like if you, yeah, like one of those because they fill a lot of the same shoe, right? And just kind of like running out of roster space there with still needing a backup catcher like Tom Murphy and hopefully a backup first baseman to a certain extent in that regard. But yeah, roster crunch is weird. And speaking of just, I guess you for pitchers, you've got 13 spots. And obviously, we know that it's typically 5 starters, 8 relievers. Where are we at in terms of health and like what we're looking at for 2024 with the starting rotation? Where are we at with health for guys that we could be getting back, like Robbie Ray, Marco Gonzalez, and Easton McGee?
So Marco Gonzalez, I believe Jerry Dipoto said should be ready for spring training. So that's a guy who you could have out the gate. Easton McGee and like Penn Murphy, for example, they're going to be out all of next year because they got Tommy John in the middle of the season. It's usually about a 14-month window or so. So it's, I guess, possible you could see him late in the year. I still don't understand why people are so in love with Easton McGee. He had one start and
Yeah,
he was fine. Like, but otherwise, we haven't seen enough out of him to even consider him depth at this point. Robbie Ray, I think the best timeline would be that he'd be back in early July, late June sometime. But I think a more conservative timeline would have him maybe August-ish or maybe
sure.
even September. So looking at the starting rotation, I think as of right now, Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert, Miller, Wu, basically what we saw at the end of last year would happen. A possible 6-man rotation with Marco at the end just to kind of try to keep Wu and Miller healthy after throwing a billion innings last season in 2023.
Yeah.
I could see it happening at least to start the year, going with a 6-man, or maybe skipping a start here and there and having Marco come in instead. There's a lot of moving parts, and obviously the assumption is that based on the question that we got from David Wallum here, who says if all of our starters are back next year, who gets pushed out? The other one was Emerson Hancock that he mentioned as well.
Yeah.
I think he's back for by spring training as well.
Yeah,
No.
same timeline as Marco. So you're getting, you could start very easily next year in spring with 7 major league starters ready to go. If you're considering Hancock a major league starter, I mean, he made 3 starts for the Mariners, albeit because some you know, injury stuff happened last year. So yeah, 7 major league starters potentially by spring and into April. I'm assuming you're pushing Marco and Emerson out. Should we retain all 5 of the ones that we ended with in 2023?
And should you go with a 5-man? Yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree with that. And I think that you go into spring training with Marco competing for the 5th spot. And
Okay.
you have like Marco and Wu just, I mean, Wu obviously has the edge,
I
no
was gonna
doubt in my
say
mind.
I don't know if it's a
Like
competition at that point,
it's
but
not a
if you're looking
competition,
to
but
to conserve his arm, to save his arm a
yeah.
bit for maybe a later stretch down, in the dog days of summer, that's where that competition has the most weight.
And Marco's under contract next year. I don't see any reason for the Mariners to necessarily, I guess, release him. You just be eating that, like, I think it's $14 million or something like that he's owed.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get anything on the trade market for Marco Gonzalez. So you just have to hope that he comes back next year and is the guy that he was in like I think it was 2019 where he had his best year. And then, if Marco Gonzalez could be the guy that he was in 2019, you have a very capable starting pitcher who's going to get you through 6, maybe give up 2 runs, 2-3 runs, and eat some innings for you. Because that's really what the Mariners didn't have when you would have like Brian Wu or Bryce Miller or someone go 2 innings
Yeah.
or something like that. So if nothing else, Marco is an innings eater. Other than this year in 2023, he's always been healthy and dependable for the most part. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, I guess, what the Mariners do with that rotation. And injuries are always going to happen. I still, in my opinion, want to see the Mariners go out and add a starting pitcher, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's a conversation for a little bit. In a bit here, talking about where they'll go with starting pitching. Should we subtract from our current core? Thinking about where the Mariners are at with certain roster spots, and there's a couple hot button issues. I already addressed Ryan Bliss. We've talked about the rotation. We talked about the corner outfield. First base is another hole, I guess, for some people. According to the Airman 32, you suck. Just want to throw that out there. You suck, by the way, Colton. And
Appreciate
you have
that.
no
Thank you.
idea what you're talking about, especially when it comes to France. France will get in his he got in his own head, and I see him being better in 2024 is what the airmen said. What's your initial reaction to that?
I think that the Mariners need to hire this guy. Let's get him on the coaching staff, man. He knows how to fix Ty France. Let's see it happen, the airman. Go
Yeah.
on. I appreciate it. I do suck. You're right. I'll do my best to be better, man. I really appreciate your comment. It was very kind of you.
Yeah, I think Ty France himself is just we can't guarantee his bounce back, right? That's not something that we can always depend on. And maybe it was foolish for the Mariners in 2023 to assume that he would just be a 120 WRC plus OPS plus guy. You know, was that foolish of them to not have, I guess, a more serviceable backup than Mike Ford, who, albeit, was pretty good in his role, right? So I don't know. As far as first base, the market is okay in free agency. There's a couple names that obviously stand out, like Cody Bellinger, but more so an outfielder. I think like I don't know, like Garrett Cooper is there, but like that's like the budget part of it, right? There's like the Cody Bellinger end and then like the Garrett Cooper end. And you want to find someone in the middle, but I don't know if there really is anybody in the free agent class that really stands out to me if we
I
aren't expecting France to bounce back.
I agree with that. I think like obviously one of the big names is like Reese Hoskins coming off that ACL injury, but I honestly think he goes back to Philly. I don't know why he would want to come here in the first place. He's
Sure.
probably, gonna need to take a shorter deal just to say, "Hey, I'm healthy again." Smile. Like I don't
Yeah.
know anyone that's gonna want to send like a 5-year, like $100 million deal or whatever after he was hurt all last year. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes with Reese Hoskins again. We talked about earlier in the show how right-handed hitters kind of don't work very well in Seattle unless your name is Nelson Cruz. So I don't know. I think that if you're going to add to first base, it's going to need to be a trade of some kind. And we'll have a video later on this offseason breaking down exactly who our targets are. But I think that you can go into 2024 with Ty France as your starting first baseman, but you need to have a backup plan that is better than Dylan Moore or Tommy LaStella or Mike Ford.
Yeah.
You like maybe even a left-handed complement. I don't remember who we talked about earlier in the offseason. I don't remember. So there was some sort of
Dominic
left-handed.
Canzone
No.
in free agency.
I think so. I don't remember. I mean, like I try to think of who could be available. Anybody in the American League Central, I think like Josh Naylor, I'm
Oh,
sure is
sure. Like
available.
as like a trade target, or are you talking about
Right.
free agency? Free
Trade
agency,
target.
okay. Because free agency, the big one for me is Heimer Candelario.
That's who we were talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. That's who we were
Candelario would
talking
be
about.
my guy. But
Hmm.
like I mentioned, I would assume that Garrett Cooper would be more in the Mariners ballpark. I hope not. But with how the front office has, I guess, gone about free agency in the last couple of years, that's where my brain is at, unfortunately. But yeah,
I'm sorry.
Candelario, I'd say very, very high up on our list for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And talking about
Hmm.
trades, I've got some mock trades for you if you wanted to indulge me for a bit. None are
Yeah.
with American League Central teams, I don't think, but give me a number between 1 and 5.
1 and 5.
Yeah,
To be fair, friends, I have no idea what Joe's about to tell me.
yeah.
I'm gonna go with 2.
2. All right. So this trade involves the Mariners and the Yankees. We are
Gleyber
acquiring
Torres.
Gleyber Torres, and in return, we are sending to the Yankees Walter Ford, Jonathan Clase, and Jose Caballero. Are you accepting that trade?
If I'm the Mariners,
Yeah.
yes.
Are you accepting it if you're the Yankees?
No.
Why?
I need to see more out of Walter Ford before I'm willing to give up my everyday second baseman for him. And also, is the Yankees plan? You know what I mean? Because the
Sure.
Orioles are good now, like
Hmm.
the Rays are good now. I need to know the Yankees are never going to be sellers. They're never going to be a team that tanks. Instead of the Yankees, that's just not how they operate. So we talked about Gleyber Torres last year coming off of a bad year. He was better this year for sure in 2023, and I
Hmm.
think that I need a little bit more. If I'm the Yankees, I would say that I want somebody more proven than Walter Ford and Jonathan Clase and Jose Caballero for that matter. I'm going to want
Sure.
guys closer to the big leagues that'll help me compete. If I'm the
Okay.
Mariners, I'm doing that trade absolutely.
That's fair. Yeah, I think I definitely crafted that to be undervaluing what the Yankees' return could be, because for the guys in those positions, like they have the baby Yankees, the minor league guys that are pushing on to the major leagues, like Jason Dominguez. I know he just injured, UCL, ouch. But Class A could fill in that spot until he's back or ready, full strength, and then go out to a corner outfield spot if they feel that he's ready. But Class A is honestly probably not even MLB ready until 2020, like mid 2024, maybe 2025. His speed tool is probably what's the most lucrative thing. Duh. I agree. I would decline that trade if I'm the Yankees. Okay.
Wonderful.
Where do you want me to go next?
4.
This trade involves the Washington Nationals.
Are we getting Mr. Outfielder guy?
Mr. Outfielder guy named Lane Thomas.
Thank you. Why, dude?
Who is not a free agent until 2026. We are also acquiring Joan Adon, if you're familiar with him. He's like a young starting pitcher for the Nationals. Has not been very good. And we are trading them Brian Wu. So Adon would come in.
Brian Wu only?
Wu for Adon and Thomas.
See, I'm not familiar with Adon.
I can tell you he was not that great last year. He's young, so we could develop him into being like a number 5. Has been pitching since 2021 in the bigs, but not a ton of experience.
If I'm the Mariners, I say no.
Okay.
Like, I'm willing to give up like Emerson Hancock plus, but I'm not willing to give up Brian Wu, who has already proven that I think you can get more for Brian Wu, personally. I think that Brian Wu straight up is worth more than Adon and Lane Thomas. I think Lane Thomas was very good last year. I'd need to see it more out of him.
Okay.
And I think that, for 2 years of Lane Thomas, I would rather just have Brian Wu.
Sure. I will just break the fourth wall. Both of these trades are accepted by the MLB trade value simulator. Just letting everybody know right now that both of these would technically get accepted. So if you're ever wanting to use this simulation tool, understand that there's a little bit more nuance than the values that it gives.
Look me in the eyes. Not you, Joe. I'm talking to our adoring fans out there, like the airman who said that I suck. Do not use this website and put those the ideas that you have for trades. Don't put them in our comments because you say it's accepted by that website. That website sucks. That website has no actual true value to it, in my opinion.
Interesting.
I think. And MLB trade value or whatever the heck you're called. If you want to sponsor us one day, forget I ever said this. But
I don't think it's completely useless. I just think there's more to say than just what the values are, right? And these are all based on their median values. So I think that it can be a useful tool. It just should be used with, I guess, a grain of salt. Like, take a step back and understand like what these values are. Like, Aaron Hicks has the same value as Jared Kelenic.
Aaron Hicks, who
keep that in mind,
except for 4 months that he was with the Orioles.
Yeah, just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to number 1. The Mariners are trading with the New York Mets.
Getting Pete Alonso, okay.
And Jeff McNeil. We are sending Bryce Miller and Zach DeLoach. And that's it. 2 for 2.
No, Mets say no. No shot.
Mets say no.
Mets say no. No chance in hell. You're gonna need more for just Pete Alonso.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for 1 year?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Well, I don't know why, like, they're going to sell Pete Alonso at the height of his value if they can. I think they're going to want, like, maybe they would take it for just Pete Alonso, and Jeff McNeil. I mean, that's 2 guys out of their starting infield. Or I guess Jeff McNeil be in left field, whatever. But yeah, I think the Mets say no. If I'm the Mariners, yes, 100%, 10 times out of 10, I do that. No doubt in my mind. Zach DeLoach is nothing in my opinion, and credit to him, he had a good year. Yeah, and I'd like to see him get an opportunity in the big league somewhere. I just don't know if I want that to be in Seattle.
Yeah.
Bryce Miller, I like him a lot. I think that he could be a very good pitcher. But a year ago, we were talking about trading Bryce Miller in a package for Brian Reynolds.
Yeah,
and I think that now that he has proven that he can do this at the major league level, we should be asking for even more than Brian Reynolds for Bryce Miller. But if I am the Mariners, I am probably doing that trade. If I'm the Mets, I'm absolutely saying no. With that being said, the Mets are stupid. So,
to an extent, yeah. I think my crafting with this pretty much was making room for the prospects to have their day. So, like, giving room for, like, Drew Gilbert and, like, Acuna eventually. Like, because McNeil's probably blocking, right? Alonso, he's probably just gone unless they want to bring him back for whatever reason. I don't think they have, I guess, an answer for first base unless they move Brett Beatty over there, which is a possibility. Or maybe they do Vientos, like if they give him more opportunity. But I will tell you, this is an overpay by the Mariners. The value for the Alonzo McNeil is 20.5. Miller Deloach is 24.2.
How much do they value Zach Deloach?
4.
There's your problem right there.
Yeah, he is 1.1 more valuable than Jeff McNeil in terms of MLB trade value.
There's your problem right there. See this right here, the way that I'm wearing this is how the guy that made MLB trade value, this is how he looks.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with the full zip?
I can't even breathe, dude.
Well,
like
that
I get that my double chin's in the way, but I can't breathe.
We're trading with the Cubs. We're trading Ty France and Emerson Hancock, and we're getting back Mark Leiter Jr. and Matt Mervis, 2 for 2.
This is an interesting one. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, I'd say yes.
Okay.
But as of right now, no, because the Mariners' windows of opportunity is right now. You don't have time to wait to make sure that Matt Mervis and Mark Leiter Jr. are guys.
Mark Leiter Jr. is a guy. He was good for them in the bullpen last year. It is a reliever, right? It's a reliever. But the question it's definitely Matt Mervis. Because
like if
he's been held down in that Cub system. Like they've relented giving him opportunity.
Yeah. Like if you're trading Ty France, who, while he was bad in 2023, has been good before.
Yeah.
For the possibility that Matt Mervis is good when you are in a scenario where you need to be competing for the World Series, I just don't think that's the route you want to take. But a few years ago, I would have said, sure, yeah, okay. I'm down.
Also, like, keep in mind, a lot of these trades, it's just you're assuming then the team would then make up for, I guess, spots that are now lacking depth. Like, if we were to trade Ty France to get Matt Mervis, I would assume we would go out and bring in a right-handed first baseman on a 1-year deal until
Never
Tyler Locklear. I know, but you know what I'm saying. Like, that's where my thought process was when trying to, like, craft some of these is, like, if we're trading Bryce Miller, we're also signing a starting pitcher like a Seth Lugo or going big and getting an Aaron Nola kind of a thing, you know, in a perfect world. But perfect world doesn't seem to exist. All 4 of these trades are accepted, by the way. So far.
Not by Colton Trade Simulator.
Nah, Colton Trade Simulator is a little bit different. And the final one. I'm rubbing my hands together like a fly. A team that needed a guy, a dude in the postseason. A team that could not shut down the Texas Rangers offense. The Baltimore Orioles are trading for Logan Gilbert. And in this trade, we're also sending Alberto Rodriguez. The Mariners are receiving Jordan Westberg, Dean Kramer, Austin Hayes, and Mike Baumann. If you need help on who any of those guys are, maybe Mike Baumann. He's a reliever.
I do know Mike Baumann.
Okay, that's the trade.
This is okay. So I see why you rub your hands together. This is definitely the most interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming that we would go out and supplement the loss of Logan Gilbert with a signing of Blake Snell or Sonny Gray or something like that.
Not necessarily. No. You're getting Dean Kramer back in this trade, right? So he could be your number 4. Like, going into the year, if you don't add your rotations, then Castillo, Kirby, Miller, Kramer, Woo, right? Like, he could be your number 4 in this scenario. If you want to supplement it, sure, but then that's crowding your rotation even more so.
I just would want guys that are more proven. Like, Logan's proven at this point.
Sure.
Like, I feel like Castillo, Kirby, and Logan are proven.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of question marks to back into your rotation with Miller, Woo, and Kramer.
Sure.
I obviously the Orioles are not giving up Jackson Holiday, which is unfortunate because that would be like the
No, Henderson's gonna move to third eventually, and Holiday's gonna be their shortstop without a doubt in my mind.
If for some reason you could get them to substitute Westberg for Holiday, easy.
Oh, I mean, I think that is an automatic no for the Orioles anyways. Holiday's value is insane.
Yeah, according to baseball trade values, right?
I'm just saying in general, but yes.
I'm going to say no.
Okay. I don't hate you saying no. Like, any of these trades, you could have said either way. I think there's arguments for both sides. There are some that are a little bit more lopsided, but again, all of these trades are accepted.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Logan Gilbert. I know that the Ben Reary Substack, by the way, make sure you guys go subscribe to Ben.
Great coverage.
He was talking to Ryan Divish, and Divish said that the Mariners had offered Logan Gilbert and his agent a 5-year, I don't remember what it was, 5-year, $25 million contract or something like that. Basically, the Evan White contract. Um, and Gilbert's rookie year, and basically would have bought out his arbitration. And Gilbert's agent said that it was like a slap to the face, and it was very disrespectful. So
Great.
yeah, love that for us.
Well, that's such a weird caveat then, because Gilbert's talked about wanting to be a Mariner for life in like certain like.
Right, and keep in mind that was years ago at
Yeah.
this point. So it's like
It could have
whatever.
been mended for sure.
Yeah. So I personally would love to see Logan Gilbert be a Mariner for life. I'd love for the Mariners to extend him this very second. But I don't know. I think that you don't need that trade with the Orioles could be there next year, in my opinion.
Mhm.
See where we're at after this year, and then go out and maybe supplement it with that trade where you get one less year of control of everyone, and they get one less year of control with Logan Gilbert. But I think that I would rather hold on to Gilbert for 2024 and wait and see how Bryce Miller, Brian Wu develop. See if they can become more dependable, more veteran-like presences in that rotation.
Okay. Did you enjoy my trades? Be honest.
No.
Thanks.
So in talking about trades, another one that hasn't talked about a lot is Brent Rooker from the Oakland Athletics, mainly because he did like a Q&A on Twitter the other day, and someone asked him what his favorite away ballpark was, which even if they asked his favorite ballpark, he wasn't going to say the Coliseum, but his favorite away ballpark, and he said T-Mobile. And because of that, everyone says future Mariner Brent Rooker. All right. They think that, Brent Rooker's coming to the Mariners in 2023. Rooker hit 246, 329, 488 with a 130 OPS plus. He hit 30 home runs. He walked 49 times and struck out 172 times. Joe, how do you feel about Brent Rooker?
I would love it as like your rotating fourth outfielder, maybe give Ty France a first DH guy. But if you're giving him like every day, like without a doubt, 162 starts, it's not gonna happen. It'd be a little too, I think, too much, because this is his first year. This is his first year being a productive ball player, right? And I was surprised you said 30. I didn't know he got to 30 home runs. It's very good. Good for him.
Yep.
He had a very good start to the year in April, and I think he slowed down, but then it sounds like he stabilized then. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate it by any means. With how the free agent market looks, depends on where you add from there. But yeah, I could see it being like a solid, maybe like weak side platoon, but like being your DH kind of a thing. Like, and then when you are facing a lefty, he's starting in the outfield at that point.
Yeah, he's been in the league for 4 years. He spent, 2 years in Minnesota, and then he spent 2.5 years in Minnesota, spent half a year with the Royals last year, and then came over to the Athletics after he was released by the Royals. I don't know. Like you said, it's the first year he's ever done anything at the big league level. And I mean, I look at the rest of his years, and sure, he's coming into his prime, right? Age 29, theoretically, a guy's prime.
In there, yeah.
I go again with you need to get proven guys. And I like Brent Rooker. I do. I like him, like you said, as a fourth outfielder guy, but I honestly don't even know if I'd want him that high, like as fourth outfielder. Like, in my opinion, your fourth outfielder. So let's say just for the sake of example, the Mariners go out and get Cody Bellinger this offseason to put into a corner. And then you have Julio, Bellinger, Kelenic. Do I want Brent Rooker being that fourth outfielder rotating guy? I'm not sure.
Like, you'd want more out of that position?
I think so.
He hit 30 bombs.
He hit 30 bombs, but it's like, I don't know. I would like to see him more proven. Like, I want to see. Yeah. I don't want someone who was good for a year to, all of a sudden be the answer that is given to us by Jerry DiPoto and co. And it also, of course, would depend on what all you have to give up for Brent Rooker.
Like, yeah, in a trade, sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think if Jeff Passan was right, you're being a little greedy. All right?
I'm so greedy.
I don't know. I think I'd be okay, especially with that. Like, if it's Bellinger, I am 1,000% in on a Brent Rooker being a guy that's giving Jared Kelenic a day off instead of Dylan Moore at that rate. You know what I mean?
Keep in mind that Brent Rooker has never played first base, ever.
All right, well, then he's not the answer at first base then. Dylan Moore can be the answer at first base. I don't care. Yeah, I think, what was he, third base then? Is it third base that he has innings at?
He has never played the infield.
Really? I could have swore he was a corner infield, corner outfield guy. Just corner outfield?
In 2023, he played 29 games in left field, 31 in right field,
And the rest is
and
DH.
76 at DH. Yep.
Okay.
He's not good defensively.
No, 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 no. It's definitely like a weak side platoon. He's starting against lefties potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe not the first base comment then. I assumed he had been there, but I guess not. I can understand maybe wanting more, but
Again, it would
what's out
truly
there?
depend on what you trade for him. Like if you trade like, I don't know, like a single leg lottery ticket, sure. I don't care at that point, whatever, be my guest. But if you have to trade some like actual, some actual dudes, no.
What if you trade Jonathan Clase?
Straight up,
Sure, you can do 1-for-1.
no.
Really? You're low on him
Mm,
too.
okay. Yeah, you're right. I probably would trade Jonathan Class A for him. I mean, I am low on Class A. Yeah, I'd trade Jonathan Class A.
Because like he doesn't help us now, whereas Rooker
Yeah.
could. And then the A's could just field the fastest outfield in the world.
The athlete so Rooker in 2023, he got 170 he had 175 plate appearances versus lefties and 351 versus righties.
Okay.
20 of his home runs did come against righties. But against lefties, he hit 279, 354, 519.
Yeah. Smashed lefties.
But this dude strikes out a lot.
Yeah, I mean 172 strikeouts in
Yeah.
what would that be? Like 450 at bats? Is that what it was?
He had 5 something.
5 something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
His,
it's not great.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I just think that if you're the Mariners, you just got to aim higher.
Sure.
Like, in my opinion. And for what it's worth, he had a higher strikeout rate than Eugenio Suarez.
Yeah, because Gino played 162 and he he got
So
more ABs. Yeah.
Gino had, we'll just round up to a 31% strikeout percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Brent Rooker, he had if we round up, is 33%. So
Yeah.
a lot of strikeouts, and this team doesn't need strikeouts. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Brent Rooker, like if you were to trade Jonathan Clase for Brent Rooker, I'm not gonna be mad. I think that there are better options out there.
Yeah.
That maybe not on the free agent market, but better trade options out there that you can go out and get a guy who makes a little bit more contact. Doesn't have to necessarily be so platoon heavy.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things with the Mariners this year is they were so incredibly platoon heavy in every spot, except for the spots they probably should have been platoon heavy in, like first base.
Yeah.
Like we're switching Dominic Canzone and Dylan Moore out like there's no tomorrow, or Jared Kelenic and Dylan Moore, or Jose Caballero and Josh Rojas.
Yeah.
Like there's no tomorrow. It's like I'm tired. Like stop with the platoons. I get it. Speaking of Ty France, we do have that video on the screen now about him going to Driveline that Joe maybe should have checked that one out. Just remember, Colton, you suck. We appreciate you guys watching episode 29 of the Hit It Here podcast. Be sure to stick around all offseason long for everything else we have to say if you actually care. And go Mariners.